Okay, everyone, I've started the recording. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Louise Mathresere. I'm the Associate for Community Projects in the Caribbean. And the purpose for today's session is to really assist those of you who will be submitting proposals to execute projects underneath our microgrants for Caribbean community building, and to allow you to get sufficient information to support proposals that will actually lead to impact and that would help to accomplish the objectives of the community building grant program. So this is all about ensuring that you have everything that you need to submit grants that we would happily fund under this micro grant program. And so today we would basically be giving you a welcome and a brief introduction on HOT and why we are doing this work in the Caribbean region under the Caribbean program. Then I'll give you a quick overview of the community mapping grants, eligibility criteria, and the application process. And once we're done with that, I invite our community project lead in partnerships and community who has a wealth of experience in such micro grants and grant programs to share with us how you could develop a proposal that would help to build your OSM community in your country, in your community. And just as soon as we're done doing that, we'll go into a Q&A and allow you an opportunity to share with us any questions that you may have. Feel free to add any questions in the Q&A section as we go along. And just this quick note that I wanted to confirm with you that attendance of the webinar does not guarantee any acceptance of your proposal, but we're hoping that it will help. And so as a quick introduction to Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, it is an international team dedicated to humanitarian action and community development through open mapping. And so we are here in essence to assist with humanitarian action, support community development using open mapping. And so most of our mapping is based on the openstreetmap.org platform. And our main goals are to work towards communities where needs are addressed, where everyone can access and contribute to the map, and where open map data is available. So that is why you see a lot of capacity building in our work, a lot of training, a lot of engaging with the community, and a lot of ensuring that we actually know these needs that we are trying to meet. So these are three critical components that we are committed to prioritizing: natural hazard resilience. And so, which is why we in the Caribbean program, there is, apart from me, the community projects associate, we also have a disaster services specialist who works very closely with our partner CDMA and others in the region who are working to build resilience and to plan for responses to natural hazards and disasters. Inclusive mapping. And so in all of our activities, we try to ensure that we take into consideration accessibility for persons who may not usually be considered or may whether be placed on the periphery in terms of being able to access mapping. And so we want to ensure that there are no barriers in terms of the cost or the whether it is through gender or through other ways. We need to ensure that there's access for all in terms of learning to map. And so it's a very inclusive space in terms of all of the projects that we're doing. And this is something we will be looking for in the work that you do. And enhancing local leadership. So you lead, you submit us with the proposals, you identify need in your community. And so it comes from the community and it's locally led, localization. Okay, I think that we have basically discovered most of the sort of conceptualizing what HOT is. And so this is just a quick example of the origins of HOT, where the map was used in disaster response. So this is actually the map of Port-au-Prince after the 2010 earthquake, and it really demonstrates how persons within the communities worked alongside remote mappers via the open source platform, open mapping or OpenStreetMap platform to map communities. And so HOT has an open mapping hub in the region, Latin America and the Caribbean, which we are a part of. But this is just one out of four hubs globally. And so there are hubs throughout the world. So we have Open Mapping Hub Asia, Open Mapping Hub Eastern and Southern Africa, and Open Mapping Hub Western and Northern Africa as well. This it's important to understand these five impact areas because this is something that we'll be looking for in your proposals. So in terms of our partnering for impact in major global challenges, we look for these five areas, and that is disasters and climate resilience, sustainable cities and communities, public health, displacement and safe migration, and gender equality. And these are shared on our website, so you could read about them as well while you submit your proposals. But you want to look at ways in which your proposals fall under or align with these impact areas. Specifically, so we've moved from the broader HOT into looking at the Caribbean program. So our Caribbean program focuses on three main areas, which is innovation, where we focus on development of tools and workflows and technologies that could support sustainable mapping ecosystem in the region. So both the resources and the capacity building in that area. This area here, which is my space, the community building space, where we're striving to engage with you, our mapping communities, and help and support in building your presence within the communities as well. And re-energizing, we know that quite a few OSM communities within some of the countries, such as the Cosman community in Haiti, has faced challenges. So there's also this move to re-energize the OSM communities in the Caribbean region. And of course, a resilient Caribbean when we speak of disaster risk resilience. So that is the third component. And so you could always look at a few of the programs we do under this move, such as partnering with, I mentioned earlier, CDIMA. We have partnerships like YAC and so on. And of course, we do the OSM community building where we engage with OSM communities. We have partnerships with the Caribbean School of Open Data, which focuses on building capacity among persons who are interested in doing so in the field of open mapping and GIS and project development within their communities. Okay, so let's move now to focusing on the community building grants. So these grants are specifically focused on how do we provide resources needed to establish a nurturing environment for the growth and development of open mapping groups in the Caribbean region. And as I mentioned earlier, we're looking to strengthen these groups and provide opportunities for you to access funding, mentorship. So throughout the execution of your project, we will continuously engage with you and support you in terms of how we could help to fine tune your project, how we could provide feedback, how we could connect you with peers who have done this before. Okay, so when we say the OpenStreetMap community or the OSM community, I just wanted to provide context. And so we're speaking specifically to groups formed with the central objective of contributing to or using OSM. So these groups come in a range of sizes and represent geographies from small towns to multi-country region. They could be formal or informal. So we have throughout the Caribbean, OSM St. Lucia, OSM Cosman in Haiti, I mentioned earlier. And so in some cases, we also look at a more, we extend that definition, as in the case of this microgrant program. to groups that are supporting and advocating for the collection, sharing of use of open mapping data. So an example of that would be GISTT in Trinidad, or we have youth mappers in Jamaica, and so on and so forth. And so in cases where your work supports the OSM community or you partner closely with them, then these are also groups that are taken into consideration. In terms of what to expect under this program, firstly, we would definitely be supporting you in terms of needs for technical training on data collection analysis, and depending also on the implementation partner. There are cases where this is not needed, where you do have a lot of capacity to execute that sort of work already. The training has already been done. Capacity building on project management, leadership, and sustainability, depending again on needs. We would also be sharing templates from the required projects, and the micro grants do not exceed 2,000 for selected applicants in this case. The proposal deadline would be July 16th, 2024, and applications submitted after that date would not be eligible for consideration. And so you could submit at any point prior to the end of day for July 16th. Grantee support. So as I mentioned, we already spoke about this. And so this is specifically focused on the Caribbean region because it falls under the Caribbean program. And so this funding is specifically for OSM communities that are located in the open mapping region in the Caribbean. So, sorry, this is specifically for open mapping communities that are located in the Caribbean region. So I'll give you a bit more details about which islands. So it's 28 specific countries that we refer to. The OSM, it has to be OSM based. So we want to ensure that the programs and projects under this microgrant actually incorporate the use of OpenStreetMap in these projects. And of course, it has to be aligned with the priorities of what that I spoke about earlier in terms of humanitarian action through open mapping, inclusiveness, and so on. So these are the 28 eligible countries. And so in essence, all of the countries of the Caribbean region are eligible. Okay. So we want you to just ensure that within where you are working is listed as an island in the or country in the Caribbean prior to submitting. And so just so you know, what would have programs for different parts of the region. 1 second, please. Apologies. HOT would have programs for different parts of the Caribbean region. So you could look out on the HOT website if you are from another part of the world and you're interested in HOT programs from within your region. In terms of proposal requirements, we will be sharing a template with you, but in the interim, we have shared with you on our website and on social media an outline that details the proposal requirements. And this would include specifying what's the background of the work that you're doing. Tell us a bit about your organization and your group of partners, or your sub-consultants, or anyone that you're seeking to engage, and why, basically. What are the objectives of this event or activity that you're proposing, how it's going to contribute positively to your OSM communities. And of course, we want to get an outline. So we're not asking at this point for a detailed and guaranteed budget, but an outline of how you would seek to utilize the funds would be quite, it would show us that you have thought this through and you're quite prepared to execute a successful project. Just a quick few things that are important to note before we move on to um, speaking. I'll hand you over to Jeffrey, who will give you a few tips. Ensure that you submit your applications to caribbean@hotosm.org. Applications submitted, well, we've already said that. Applicants must include that proposed budget outline to be considered. And again, it's a basic proposed outline of how these funds will be directed, because at the end of the day, we need to know there is an eligibility criteria in terms of where these costs could go into, and we need to know that it falls under this criteria. And we have detailed all of that for you in the TOR. If you have any questions, again, send your questions to caribbean@hotosm.org so that we could respond to these questions ahead of the proposal deadlines. And so we're happy to respond and post updates and responses to questions ahead of the deadline. Applicants are encouraged to participate in, which you're doing right now. Those of you who are unable to attend, I hope you are able to listen to this webinar in full. We will be sharing the recording. Every OSM community or individual is permitted to make one submission. So, for example, if there's an OSM Jamaica, we would not expect that one organization to submit numerous submissions. We would only acknowledge the last received one or the latest one before the deadline. Any technical difficulties submitting your applications, please alert us as soon as possible. For example, if I got an alert about issues with us not being able to receive the email after the deadline, it will be very difficult. But ahead of the deadline, we will be able to make adjustments and decide about extending deadlines to accommodate any technical difficulties. Okay, so on that note, I will hand you over to Jeffrey, who will be providing you with a bit more information and some tips.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Louise. So yeah, as Louise has mentioned, I'm just here to share some tips and yeah, to help you maybe improve your proposal so that it's accepted and you do your project. I think like Louis mentioned at the beginning, yeah, a very big fan of micro grants because I've witnessed very many OSM communities grow from micro grants, and now they are continuing, to do activities years later. So yeah, don't underestimate this. What you're doing through this proposal might be the start of something big in your country, in your region. Yeah, so looking forward also to reading your proposals that will come in. So just to give you a few tips, and I think the first thing you really need to think about is what's the goal of your project. And from what Louis has mentioned, I think there are two main things. One, you want to grow your open mapping community, your OpenStreetMap community. You want to contribute to OpenStreetMap as well. So like you are doing two things at once. You're not doing a small project to contribute to OpenStreetMap, but also through that project, you are really also kind of contributing to OpenStreetMap. So that's the first thing that should really come out clearly in your proposal. I think the best way to to build a community is to, when you're working on a project. I've seen so many communities, and they always tell you, yeah, the first time we started like being serious and organizing activity as a community or as an organization is when we did this project. So yeah, doing a project that's organized and it has like a timeline and activities is really a good way to mobilize a community and grow a community that contributes to OpenStreetMap. So that has to come out clearly in your proposal. Like, yeah, we want to build a community, but these are the activities we're going to do to grow that community. And those activities that should be, collecting and contributing to OpenStreetMap in some way. So one of the things that you should not really forget about are the impact areas that Luis shared. One is disasters and climate resilience, sustainable cities and communities, that is 2. 3, public health. 4 is displacement and safe migration. 5 is gender equality. So think of like, yeah, what kind of problem can I solve around those areas? One of those areas. Don't do all of them in one project. Choose one that you think is there in your community, is a problem that you can solve using OpenStreetMap data, and then build your idea around that. And just to give you a very simple example, your project might be around, for example, public health. If someone asked you a question, how many health care facilities are there in your community, in your town, in your city? Where are they located? Are they already on OpenStreetMap? Maybe not, but maybe through your project, you can, create this data and share it with people to create awareness of where these facilities are. What facilities do they have? Do they have, for example, access to, to electricity? Do they have access to an ambulance? Something like that. So you're creating data and you're putting this data on OpenStreetMap. But as you are doing those activities, you're also engaging people, you're training them, they are all contributing to OpenStreetMap, but you're building their skills along the way, because I think like Luis mentioned, you also get support along the way on how to, you'll get support along the way on if you have like, need of like, how do I, create like, for example, a data collection tool? How do I add this data to OSM? How do I, so you'll be getting support. But first of all, you have to kind of think about the problem. So look at those 5 impact areas and think, what can we do that we can, use OpenStreetMap solve that problem, and should be a problem that is evident in your community. So think about, disasters and climate resilience. Is that data that you can create towards climate resilience? Think about sustainable cities and communities. Is there, you can map, for example, garbage wastes, like garbage collection points. You can map public transport. You can map, bus stops to improve public transport in the city. So there are so many, mapping projects, small mapping projects that you can develop out of these 5 impact areas. And one thing you can do is even to look at, for example, the OSM Wiki has like examples of projects that have been done by other communities in other countries around these areas. So that's the first thing. Know the purpose of the project, align it with the impact areas, choose one of them. Then number 3 is that now try to develop activities, okay? What activities are we going to do to execute this project? Of course, as you develop activities, also think about now your budget. Lisa has mentioned like the amount for this grant. You have that amount of money. How are you going to spend it to execute your project? So think about the activities as well as the budget. So the two have to be aligned. So you cannot have like the budget, but then the budget is not related at all with your activities. So the two have to be well aligned, and also try to be mindful of costs which are not eligible. I can just give a very simple example. There's a time we're running micro grants, and someone said, give me this money, I want to buy a car and use that car for mapping. And that was the only item in the budget. And of course, that grant application did not wasn't accepted because the cost that you wanted to use the money for was not eligible. So think of what is needed by for your project to run the activities that you have put inside your budget. So if it is a training, for example, you are doing a training, yeah, maybe need to buy like some things that will, help to facilitate the training. Okay, that goes into your budget. But also in your activities, there has to be like, yeah, we'll do maybe 2 or 3 trainings. So they have to align. The other tip I want to share is that also, yeah, have a team. Don't do everything yourself. Yeah, you are the project lead. You are the one who's doing communications. You're doing the training. You're doing finance. You will easily, burn out. It will be a lot of work for one person. But yeah, if you show also like in your proposal that you have a team that you're going to be working with, I think that also is important, because at the end of it, or what you're trying to grow is a community, or people contribute to OpenStreetMap, maybe for your organization, maybe for your city. And to grow a community, that means you're collaborating. OpenStreetMap is from a point of collaboration. So by sharing like roles and saying so and so you do this, so and so you do this, you're also kind of collaborating around a project that you're really developing, and using that as a launch pad to even other things that you do in the future. So yeah, have a timeline, have a budget, have activities which are clear. Yeah, I think like Luis mentioned, also help you to share like a template which you can use to develop your proposal, so that you don't start from scratch. Yeah, I think also try to think of ways how you will track your activities and know, okay, from our project, these have been the outcomes. Should be coming out clearly. If, for example, you are going to create data, let's say, for mapping health facilities, you should be able to track and say from, when we began the project, maybe there were 15 health facilities mapped in OSM. But then at the end of the project, we have mapped maybe 100 facilities. We have trained maybe 20 people on OpenStreetMap. We have engaged maybe 2 organizations. So also think about that, because at the end of it all, it's not just about creating data and putting it in OpenStreetMap, but how is that data going to be used? Are there some stakeholders that you're engaging in your project who will make use of this data? If it is data, for example, on health facilities, are you sharing this data with maybe government departments that work on health? If you are mapping public transport, are you sharing this data with the community? How are you sharing this information? So also think about how you're going to get some, stakeholders, some partners who are going to benefit from the data that you are going to collect. So that will also be very, very useful for you to think about as you, develop your project. And I think when you are really developing your proposal, it's kind of like you're planning how you will actually execute the project. If you don't put enough time into developing your proposal, even like the implementation of your project will be difficult, because you find some challenges which you didn't think about so at the beginning. So put in time now, develop your proposal. If you have like a team, sit together, 2, 3 people, 4 people, brainstorm and see how can we do this. And then you come up with a well thought out proposal, so that when the reviewers read your proposal, they have no chance but to say, yes, this project looks good. It is likely to have impact. It's likely to lead to the growth of the OSM community. And then you go ahead to do your project. And as you do the project, also try to, do some communication, share the highlights from your project, write diary posts on OpenStreetMap, and share what you're doing with the rest of the world. Yeah, so those are the kind of the main things, but I can also just point on some of the things on this slides. yeah, if you have done some similar projects in the past, highlight them in your proposal, because that also demonstrates that you have, capacity to do this kind of project. Ability to formally engage with the local stakeholders or partners and government counterparts. Yes, mention it like, yeah, we are collecting this data and we are also going to engage these different stakeholders. It can be community members, can be organizations that can make use of the data that you're collecting. You're highlighting all these key things in your proposal, and it will make it stronger. Yeah, the budget is very important. If your budget is not clear and it's not aligned very well with your activities, then there will be like a disconnect, and that will show that, yeah, this project is not maybe viable. But yeah, if your project activities are clear and they're connected to the budget, then that will be a tick. So you can look at this as just like, a checkbox or a checklist that you can use when you're developing your proposal, meaning that if you have all of these things inside your proposal, then it will be very easy for the project to be approved and funded. Yeah, capacity and ability of the committee. So yeah, like I said, have a team. And even in your proposal, you can say, so and so will do this, so and so will do this. By showing that you have a team, it also makes your proposal stronger, because you're not doing everything alone. You're doing it as a team, which also contributes to community building. Yeah, background and consideration of the local context. Like I mentioned, the problem that you are solving should be relevant for your community. So you don't just look at an example of a project which was done in another country and just think that it will be impactful for your local community. So think about the local challenges that are faced in your town, in your city, and how can you develop a small project around using OSM that can solve that challenge. So yeah, you mentioned that challenge to give that background and context of why you chose this particular problem to solve. Yeah, I think written communication skills, this will come out clearly in your proposal, because you'll be able to easily to articulate what the issue is, how you are going to solve it. Yeah, this is also very important. And lastly, a clear connection with addressing current challenges affiliated with the open mapping community. So yeah, I think, for example, also highlight areas which you think will be, for example, you may be having like your community does not have maybe enough women, and you are doing like a project around gender equality, and one of the goals of your project is maybe to bring more women into mapping. So you are solving that challenge of getting more women into contributing to OpenStreetMap. It might also be that, yeah, you don't have maybe enough members contributing to OpenStreetMap, but through this project, you want to mobilize and recruit more people to contribute to OpenStreetMap. So you have a challenge within your community, but you're trying to address that challenge. It can also be a knowledge gap, and they say, okay, maybe we don't have enough people who know, for example, ArcMap or ArcGIS, or can do like validation for quality assurance on OpenStreetMap. And also, like, the purpose of your project is also to improve those skills and make sure there is more capacity within your team. So you're addressing a challenge that your open mapping community faces through this project. If that also comes out clearly, it helps you to make your project better. Yeah, I think I've mentioned enough, so I'll just stop here so that I think we can take some questions. So yeah, back to you, Luis, if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I think that this was a very thorough presentation and some great guidance for us. It almost makes me wish that I was one who could have submitted a proposal. I feel equipped, well equipped to do so. And I'm not seeing any questions from our participants as yet. Is there
Maybe we
any?
can allow them to speak if it's possible to do that.
Yes, I'll do so. Okay. Um, Let me see if I could make that. I will make that adjustment. Perhaps you could put, is there anyone who has something that they would like to comment or feedback? I could probably adjust it so that I can.
Okay. Sorry. Hi, Louise. I think I can speak now. Good afternoon,
Okay.
everyone, or good morning. Sorry,
Good
I'm
morning,
way ahead.
Sure.
I just wanted to clarify. So I know, or I think earlier at least, there were a couple of groups from Jamaica on, and I wanted to check two things. So one, is there any stipulation? So because we would have had a partnership with HOT through the open mapping projects, are they allowed to reapply if they've already received a grant? That's one. And then two, because they're from, is it that the country represents sort of one application, or in their case, if they're not affiliated with Youth Mappers, but they're affiliated with, the CSOD projects, does that represent a separate constituent, or they would have to be affiliated with Youth Mappers?
Definitely not country based. So every OSM community can submit one application. So Youth Mappers Jamaica or Youth Mappers if there were two Youth Mappers, one at the University of the West Indies and one at UTech, each of these organizations could submit a proposal for microgrant and clearly outline their objectives or clearly outline. If they so desire to partner and submit one, that would be their own prerogative, but they have the right to submit one application as an organization. But
Okay.
I wasn't clear on your second question. Sorry about that.
So, well, I guess there are two more. So one, I was making sure that if they were recipients of the micro grants from something else, if they could, if they're still eligible for this. But the second thing is that they're not necessarily youth mappers, right? They would have come in. They're affiliated with this because of the CSOD partnership, but not that they have they're not affiliated with youth mappers. So would that preclude them? Are they still eligible? Is essentially what I'm asking. Because I guess Youth Mappers is a representative for OSM in Jamaica at this point.
Oh, I am not quite sure of that question. I think what you're saying is they're not an official OSM community as yet.
Right.
Oh, well, I think that based on the TOR, it does not need to be an official OSM community, but if it is a community that is unofficially forming and they are somehow find ways to partner with an official body, then we would assess that proposal. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Mm. So we have another question. We have someone from Sri Lanka who wanted to get clarification on submitting a proposal. Unfortunately, the proposals have to be based on the Caribbean, but we do have a hub in Asia, and probably what you can do is look out at our other hubs to see whether or not there are opportunities related to open mapping. So I hope that helps, and I hope that you're able to get an opportunity. There are quite a few programs across the globe, but I hope that in your attending that you benefited from the general input and the tips that was shared by Jeffrey. Yeah. You're very welcome. Since we are waiting, I would invite you to, if you have any questions while we're waiting, is there any other questions coming up? I could probably allow you to just complete this poll. I will share the link for it in the chat in one moment. Let me just get the link for you, and I will share it in the chat. I just want to see whether or not, we are all on the same page, and just want to break the ice a bit while you're thinking up your questions. Is there anyone who wanted to make a question, have a question or comment? There are 2 questions in the Slido, so feel free to put it in. And in case there's anybody who's shy, it's an opportunity for you to share your thoughts and share your challenges. Yeah. Okay, so we have an input from Neil, who says, I'm from Youth Mappers Jamaica. Welcome, Neil. Happy to have you. I thought the presentation was clear. The suggestion was also helpful, and I will share with my group. Thank you, Neil. We appreciate that feedback, and we are looking forward to getting your proposals. Okay, so what comes to mind? Most persons say mapping, and surprisingly, people and group. That definitely summarizes it. But we have a few interesting other words here, such as learning, sharing, contributing, impact. I love that. Different concerned humans. That is beautiful. There's so many ways in which mapping is helping and bringing together different concerned humans to make a difference, to build community, country, to get involved, to be active in your region. And I love the idea of thinking of impact when you speak of an OSM community. And I feel from looking at this feedback that we're all on the same page and we all understand what we're here to do and why the microgrant exists. And I just want to emphasize that we want to see your proposals. We want this grant to have impact. We want you to have that, to take advantage of that opportunity to make a difference. I'm going to go to the next question. Let me see if I could do that. Okay. I'm just seeing if I could go to the next question here. Let me know if you're seeing the next question, please. All right, I think we've gotten to the end of the hour. So I think we can probably precious page. I think we can wrap up here. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. From what I get, I think you're all ready to submit excellent proposals. And I just want to apologize, those of you who arrived on time and waited, apologize for the late start, but again, we'll be sharing the recording for those of you who joined us a bit later, and we hope that yourself and the other members of your community could benefit from it. And I just want to take an opportunity to say thank you, Jeffrey, for sharing all of your knowledge and experience with regards to OpenStreetMap community microgrant proposals with us. And thank you to all of the other representatives from OpenStreetMap for joining us here today. Thank you very much. And have a great afternoon. Is there anyone else who wants to? Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Neil. Bye. Sharika, thanks for coming. Bye, AC. Thank you. Bye.